Courtney Hadwin stunned the world with her powerhouse voice, raw emotion, and unforgettable stage presence. One judge even said, "Your interaction with the audience, the confidence, I think this has been my favorite performance of you so far." But what began as a meteoric rise quickly took a dark and unexpected turn, one that would later make Simon Cowell, the music industry's toughest judge, fight back tears on live television. What happened to this once-in-a-generation talent? And why did it shake Simon to his core? It's a story of extraordinary rise, painful unraveling, and a moment that left the world in stunned silence. Courtney's journey began not on red carpets but in the quiet corners of Hartlepool, a small coastal town in northeast England where life moved to the rhythm of the tides. Inside a modest brick home filled with the sounds of Etta James and Janis Joplin, a little girl absorbed the essence of soul and blues. Her father hummed while washing dishes, her mother's voice mingled with old records, and for young Courtney, music was more than background noise, it was a lifeline. Quiet and shy, Courtney rarely drew attention, but inside her was something powerful. The moment she began to sing, the world around her disappeared, replaced by raw emotion and magnetic energy. Music became her language, and her voice, raspy, aching, soulful, conveyed emotions far beyond her years. In private, she would lose herself in the music, rehearsing not for fame but for feeling. Her voice wasn't mimicking others, it was living through them. She didn't just perform, she connected, pulling listeners into her emotional world. Then came the golden moment. In 2018, a nervous teenage Courtney stepped onto the stage of America's Got Talent. The arena was massive, the pressure suffocating. Viewers expected just another shy kid with a decent voice. But when the opening riff of Otis Redding's "Hard to Handle" blared through the speakers, something extraordinary happened. Courtney transformed into a vessel of pure energy and emotion, her body moving with wild abandon, her raspy growl electrifying the room. The judges were stunned, the crowd went silent, then erupted. Howie Mandel slammed the golden buzzer, confetti rained from above, and a global star was born. Simon Cowell, rarely speechless, sat in awe. That moment wasn't just a breakout performance, it was an arrival. Courtney Hadwin wasn't just a contestant, she was a phenomenon. But the transition to fame was anything but smooth. In the weeks that followed, she was thrust into interviews, headlines, and viral fame. Beneath the applause, she faced an identity crisis. The music industry didn't know how to handle her. She wasn't pop-perfect or manufactured. She was grit, emotion, soul, and executives didn't know how to package that. Suggestions to soften her style or tone down her edge flooded in. But Courtney resisted. That voice, that truth, was who she was. Fame, however, came with shadows, criticism, online hate, and the impossible pressure of growing up in the spotlight. Still, she anchored herself in music, retreating to intimate venues, leaning into songwriting, and choosing authenticity over perfection. Slowly, she began reclaiming her voice, not as a product, but as an artist. Even Simon Cowell saw it. He had watched her rise, but he also saw the silent battle she was fighting behind the fame. And it was that strength, that refusal to conform, that made what happened next even more heartbreaking. Courtney's career had exploded like lightning, but maintaining that energy became a painful climb. What began in a bedroom with a hairbrush became a high-speed ride on a fame escalator that didn't slow down. Each performance, each public appearance, carried more pressure, more expectations. But behind the lights and cheers, Courtney remained a teenage girl with a powerful voice, quietly navigating the storm of becoming a star. And when health challenges arose, it wasn't just a setback, it was a reminder that even meteors can burn out if the world forgets to let them breathe. Expectation had crowned Courtney Hadwin a prodigy, and prodigies, people believed, don't change, they arrive fully formed, perfect and unshakable. In 2019, her official recording debut, The Cover Sessions, only reinforced this image. The project showcased her signature raw power, emotional depth, and maturity far beyond her years. But beneath the glowing reviews, something more complicated was happening. That version of Courtney, the gritty-voiced, retro-styled sensation, was beginning to feel outdated even to herself. That same year, her return on America's Got Talent, the champions reignited global buzz. The crowd roared as if time had stood still, expecting the same girl in the same package. But behind the curtain, Courtney was changing. She was exploring indie influences, experimenting with alternative sounds, layering her production, and writing original lyrics that spoke of her evolving identity. The industry, however, wasn't ready. Executives wanted reliability, not reinvention. They wanted the girl who channeled 1968, not a modern artist charting her own sound. This created a quiet but brutal tug-of-war. Outwardly, Courtney smiled, gave the interviews, wore the outfits, and sang the songs. Internally, she was splitting in two, the beloved image the world wouldn't let go of, and the real, growing person inside her. She feared stepping too far outside the formula would make her irrelevant. But staying inside it made her feel invisible. It was like wearing a costume she had long outgrown. The tightrope was delicate and emotionally exhausting. Too much originality, and she might alienate fans. Too much sameness, and she'd lose herself. For a teenager still discovering who she truly was, that duality was not just difficult, it was disorienting. She didn't want to be a nostalgia act. She wanted to be an artist. And though few noticed at the time, the internal conflict was already taking a toll, one that would eventually catch up to her, and bring even Simon Cowell, the man who first saw her brilliance, to tears. By early 2020, the whirlwind was at full speed. Courtney's schedule overflowed: studio sessions, photo shoots, interviews, performances. On paper, she was living every young artist's dream. Off paper, she was crumbling. Sleep became a rare luxury. Her days and nights bled together in a blur of deadlines, obligations, and pressure. Even her voice, the source of her identity and joy, began to feel like a weight. Anxiety crept in before performances. Her hands shook. Her throat tightened. She wondered if anyone would notice, or worse, if they'd care. Most painful of all, she felt profoundly alone. The people around her, stylists, managers, publicists, seemed to care more about the brand than the girl. She smiled for the camera, but in the mirror, she saw someone disappearing. Then, the world hit pause. The COVID-19 pandemic swept across the globe, silencing concert halls, shuttering studios, and canceling tours. The music industry, once humming with endless noise, went quiet. For Courtney, that silence was strangely liberating. There were no spotlights, no cameras, no demands. Just stillness. In that quiet, something profound surfaced, a deep and long-ignored exhaustion, physical, emotional, and spiritual. For the first time in years, she wasn't performing. She was just being. She picked up her guitar again, not for a deadline, but because it felt good. She journaled. She wrote songs at 2 a.m. because she had something to say. She reconnected with a girl who once sang alone in her bedroom simply because she loved it. And in that stillness, Courtney faced a hard truth. She had never been given the space to grow up. She had been raised by an industry that moves fast, demands more, and rarely stops to ask how someone feels. The pandemic didn't solve everything, but it offered clarity. A vision of what her life and artistry could be, if she dared to chase it on her own terms. But clarity doesn't always protect you from the storm that follows. As the world reopened and the machine of fame started again, so did the pressure, more intense than ever. And that's when it happened. A shocking, deeply alarming incident that rippled through her fan base and the entertainment world. Whispers began on social media and forums. Courtney Hadwin had been hospitalized. Beyond that, the details were unclear. No statements, no insiders stepping forward, just a growing wave of dread. Rumors spread. Had she collapsed from exhaustion? Burned out from years of non-stop work? Some speculated about emotional strain, even breakdowns, from the impossible expectations. Others hinted at fainting spells, anxiety attacks, signs of a spirit stretched too thin. The Courtney fans had adored seemed to vanish overnight. Her social media went silent. No posts. No reassurances. Just absence. And in that silence, fear bloomed. For fans, it was heartbreaking. For her colleagues, it was a brutal reminder. The music industry doesn't just break stars, it breaks people. The girl who once lit up the stage with a fire that left Simon Cowell speechless had gone quiet, and the world could only wait, wondering if she would rise again, or if this time, the toll had been too high. In an entertainment industry that thrives on constant visibility, where absence is often mistaken for decline, Courtney Hadwin's sudden disappearance struck like a thunderbolt. It wasn't just that she was gone, it was that no one knew why. What had happened behind those closed hospital doors? Was this the breaking point for someone who once seemed untouchable, even invincible under the spotlight? As the days dragged on with no official news, curiosity turned to genuine concern. Had the pressure of fame, relentless expectations, invasive scrutiny, and the need to constantly perform finally caught up with her? This was a sobering realization. Courtney wasn't just a prodigy, she was a human being in crisis. And this time, even the most unshakable figures in the industry, including Simon Cowell, weren't immune to the emotional impact. Known for witnessing the rise and fall of many stars, Cowell had always held Courtney in a special place. From her first nervous audition, he saw something extraordinary, raw soul and unmatched authenticity. So when news of her personal struggles broke, it hit him hard. During a live broadcast, what was meant to be a routine segment turned into a powerful and emotional moment as Simon, visibly shaken, choked back tears while speaking about her. "She had something I don't think I've ever seen before," he said, voice cracking, "and to see her going through this, it's heartbreaking." The moment quickly went viral, not because of celebrity gossip, but because of its sincerity. It reminded the world that even the toughest hearts can break when someone they believe in is hurting. In the months that followed, the focus shifted from Courtney's career to her well-being. With reduced public exposure, she was finally given the space to heal and reconnect with herself. Though she stepped back from the spotlight, she never stepped away from music. Songwriting became her outlet, a way to reclaim her narrative and reflect on her journey. Simon Cowell, unlike many in the industry, continued to support her, not as a producer, but as a mentor who truly cared. "Take your time," he told her. "The world can wait." Her inner circle, now smaller but more loyal, helped rebuild her confidence and nurtured the spark that had always made her shine. As she matured personally and musically, her new material reflected a deeper, more introspective tone, raw, emotional, and shaped by real experience. Early whispers suggest a potential album and a possible return to the public stage. Today, Courtney Hadwin is no longer just remembered as an AGT finalist. She is recognized as a young artist navigating the complexities of early fame, mental health, and creative reinvention. Her path may remain unpredictable, but it is undeniably authentic. Whether she returns to mainstream stardom or chooses a quieter, independent route, one thing is clear: her story is far from over. And as she continues her journey, the world is still watching, still listening, and still waiting. Will the pressure of fame define her career, or will she rise above it all? Share your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching. See you in the next video.